Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Digital Classroom. And in this series, I show you images we shot during the workshops and how did I shoot this one? And today we're going to take a look at this portrait from Jena. Now, I love old-fashioned photography. I don't know what it is, but new lenses are of course perfect, but sometimes they miss a little bit of character. You might wonder, what's character? I don't know. If you put it next to each other, I may or may not pick out the old lens, but when you shoot with those lenses, I don't know, something magical happens. So that's why I love collecting those old lenses. Now, of course, we didn't shoot it with a Jessica. Don't you just love these kinds of cameras? Oh, by the way, if you take the lens cap off, it works much better. Now this one is awesome because it has a light meter inside and it has of course a twin reflex. The problem with these kinds of lenses, by the way, is that you look through one lens and you take the picture with another one. So there's always a little bit of a difference between what you see and what you get. But that's so cool about these kinds of cameras. And I still use them. They're awesome. Of course, we also have the 35mm Leica R cameras. Great cameras, but most of all, great lenses if you can't afford the M lenses. But if we go even further back in time, we of course have our older Pentax cameras or Minolta cameras with great lenses. Now you might wonder, Frank, where are you going with this? Well, let me tell you. As you can see here, this is a so-called zebra lens. And here we have another one. If you see silver with black, it's often called a zebra lens. Now those lenses are very special, and that's also because they have a certain name. And you might wonder what that name is. Did you ever hear the name Jena? Probably not. But did you ever hear the name Zeiss? Yeah, you probably did hear the name Zeiss, right? Zeiss Jena. Those older lenses, I kid you not, are absolutely awesome. Now, the most lenses I'm using are, of course, the M42 mount. Now, the M42 mount, let's make it very simple. In the past, you have, of course, Nikon, Canon, and they all had different mounts. And one of the screw mounts is M42. Now, how do you fit something like this on a modern camera? Well, there are several converters on the market, like for example Photodiox or TechArt. And they make actually converters that you can use these lenses on your camera and you have autofocus. Believe it or not, it works like a charm. But for this setup, I'm not using one of these older lenses. I'm actually using a Minolta 85 1.8 lens. And it's an awesome lens and it has a very, very high quality. I think it's maybe even better than some of the modern lenses because it has more character. So how do I use a lens like that, including autofocus, on my modern Sony a7R V? Well, that's where you need the so-called LAAI converters from Sony. Now, in this setup, I'm using the LAA, and I hope I can pronounce it correctly, the version 5. Now, be careful when you use the older Minolta lenses on your a7R V, that the 4 and the 3 will give you some issues because they don't translate well with an older lens. The weird thing is, on the a7R3 everything worked fine. On the a7R V I really need the converter 5. So if you're into old lenses, make sure you buy version 5. Now, for this setup I'm using the lens wide open. Now, wide open gives you a very shallow depth of field, but you have to be careful. If you want a shallow depth of field, it can also help to shoot from a slightly lower angle, because then you get this really nice smoothie silk focus. It's just awesome, as you can see in the final results in a moment and already in the image I saw you in the start. Now there are a few things you have to be very careful when shooting wide open. And that's of course make sure that your focus is on the closest eye and make sure you focus correctly. Because one slight difference, especially when you shoot from a lower or higher angle, will be dramatical in your images. It will be totally unusable. So this is also one of the things why I highly recommend shooting tethered. Because if you shoot tethered, you see the images coming in and you can immediately check if the focus is on the eye. But hey, how do we use our lighting setup for this? Because I want to shoot wide open. Now, wide open with strobes can be a problem. For the very simple reason, a strobe has a lot of output, and in the studio we have to shoot on 125th of a second because of the X-sync. So we need strobes that can go down to a very, very low setting. Luckily, we are using our Gigoto strobes, and they have something that is, of course, well, a heritage from the speedlight era, they can go all the way down to 128th of an output. And that gives me very, very low light output. And that means they're perfect to combine with wide open lenses. Now my main light setup is the Giotto Quickie softbox to make sure that I focus my light on my model. But of course we also want to open up the shadows on the other side to give a nice accent light. And that's why I'm using an accent light on the other side. Now in this case I'm using a strip light. And I'm using a strip light for a reason. I don't want to use the strip light only to open up the shadows on that side and give a nice accent, but I also want to use the strip light to give a little bit of light on the backdrop. And this is where the strip light is awesome. I always tell people the strip light you can see as 3 different light sources. In the middle you have a very bright, harder light source, and on the sides it just feathers away. So in this case I'm using the sides to give the accent on my model, I'm using the side to light the backdrop, and the middle part it just disappears a little bit between the model and the backdrop, so it doesn't really bother me in the shot. You can also call this a sandwich technique, where you're using the outsides of the strobe and the middle side. Well, of course it will infect the image, but it doesn't have a big impact. And the cool thing about this setup is you can just angle your strip light to get more light on the backdrop and a little bit less on your model, or aim it the other way, get more light on your model, less on the backdrop. It's an awesome way to shoot. But we can talk about it for hours, and I feel like I already did with all these nice lenses. Let's take a look at the behind the scenes video. As you can see, shooting wide open gives you a totally different look. Now, it's not something I would advise to do all the time because it can get old very quickly, but sometimes, and especially with shots like this, it just really adds some atmosphere to the shots. Thank you so very much for watching, guys. If you like what we do, subscribe to our channel, leave comments below, and of course smash the like and bell notification button. But most of all, tell other people about our channel so we can grow. It helps us out enormously to give you more free content. And by the way, if you have any questions or you want to know more about these lenses, also leave comments below, because maybe your question will be answered in the next digital classroom. See you again next time. I think I'm gonna take some pictures with old lenses and have some film, and oh, the camera is still running. See you again next time. Bye, guys.